Every version of One UI briefly explained. Before One UI, Samsung phones ran TouchWiz, and later Samsung Experience, interfaces that felt heavy, cluttered, and increasingly difficult to use on larger screens. So Samsung created One UI, a system built from the ground up for simplicity, clarity, and better control, designed specifically for modern smartphones. One UI 1 was released in 2018 and was based on Android 9 Pie, moving key elements to the bottom of the screen for more comfortable one-handed use. This version brought essential features like a system-wide dark mode, always-on display with tap-to-show functionality, and the ability to remap the Bixby button. At the same time, Samsung introduced its own gesture navigation system, different from stock Android, signaling the beginning of its own design identity. One UI 2, based on Android 10, was not a radical change, but it became a smoother and more consistent version compared to the previous release. Samsung also started adopting more elements from stock Android, including the new gesture navigation system, which felt more modern and natural compared to its previous implementation. Key additions included a native screen recorder and dynamic lock screen, which automatically changed the wallpaper each time you unlock the phone. At the same time, subtle but important improvements were made to notifications and the call interface. Over time, One UI 2 evolved quickly through updates, adding major features like support for 120Hz displays, quick share, and music share for faster content transfer, as well as features like live captions and camera improvements. One UI 3, based on Android 11, introduced a more modern interface with a transparent notification panel, smoother animations, and more natural transitions, making the entire system feel faster and more alive. Samsung also refined key details, including improved notifications, repositioned volume controls next to the physical buttons, and slightly redesigned widgets. This version also introduced Eye Comfort Shield. Later updates expanded the experience with smarter, more user-focused features like private share for secure file sharing, multi-mic recording for improved audio in video recordings, and significant camera upgrades, including tools like Object Eraser. At the same time, Samsung began seriously optimizing multitasking on larger devices, especially foldables and tablets, where multi-window and task switching became much more advanced. One UI 4 was based on Android 12 and focused on two key areas: personalization and privacy. Samsung introduced its own color system inspired by Material U, allowing the interface to adapt dynamically based on the wallpaper. At the same time, it added new privacy controls, giving users more visibility and control over access to the camera and microphone. The interface became more flexible and personal with features like smart widgets, which stack multiple widgets into a single space. In parallel, Samsung continued improving the photo and video experience, adding more advanced features such as an expanded Pro mode and night mode portraits. On larger devices like foldables and tablets, One UI 4 introduced elements such as the taskbar and enhanced split-screen support, improving multitasking significantly. One UI 5, based on Android 13, did not bring major visual changes, but refined key elements of the experience. The lock screen became far more customizable, and the color palette was expanded across more apps, creating a more unified visual identity. The camera system also received attention, with features like built-in watermarks and deeper integration of advanced capabilities inspired by Expert RAW. One UI 5 also improved ecosystem connectivity between Samsung devices, introducing features like multi-control, along with multitasking enhancements, especially on flagship phones and larger devices. This included an improved taskbar, drag and drop between apps, and a more efficient multi-window system. One UI 6 was based on Android 14 and combined interface refinement with the early stages of artificial intelligence integration. Visually, the system introduced a redesigned quick panel with better organized controls and faster access to settings like brightness, along with a new font that makes the interface feel cleaner and more modern. At the same time, Samsung improved the core experience with smoother animations, better organized notifications, and updated apps like Camera, Gallery, and Weather, which became more flexible and customizable. The lock screen also received more attention, including dynamic options based on active modes, making the system more adaptive to different usage scenarios. But the real shift came with One UI 6.1, when Samsung introduced Galaxy AI. This brought features like generative edit and circle to search directly into the system. Alongside this, Samsung introduced improvements such as enhanced battery protection, the integration of quick share with nearby share for faster cross-device transfers, and better support for high dynamic range content in social media apps. Based on Android 15, One UI 7 bring the biggest change in One UI's history up to that point. For the first time, Samsung delivered a complete redesign of the interface, from icons and widgets to the camera app and lock screen. The Quick Panel was split into two separate sections, notifications and controls, although users still had the option to switch back to the classic layout. Also, Samsung introduced the Now bar, a new element that displays real-time information directly on the screen without needing to open apps. But the biggest shift was Galaxy AI. Features like Circle to Search and Live Translate were no longer just standalone apps, but fully integrated into the system. In addition, access to Google Gemini was integrated directly into the side button. One UI 8 is based on Android 16, and one of its most important additions is Gemini Live, which enables real-time conversations using not only text, but also images and even on-screen content. On foldable devices, multitasking was pushed even further with AI Results View, which displays AI-generated responses in split-screen or floating windows. Users can also move AI-generated content between apps using drag and drop. Meanwhile, features like Generative Edit evolved with new tools such as Portrait Studio, and Audio Eraser gained the ability to remove background noise in real time. One UI 8 also introduced major ecosystem changes, including the removal of Google Assistant in favor of full Gemini integration. On devices like the Z Flip, the experience was expanded to the cover screen, with more apps, widgets, and smart features available without opening the phone. The latest version, One UI 8.5, launched alongside the Galaxy S26 series, focuses on practical improvements centered around artificial intelligence, connectivity, and security. Among the key features is continuous editing with Photo Assist, along with a more intelligent version of Bixby. At the ecosystem level, Samsung introduced Storage Share, allowing seamless access to files across phones, tablets, personal computers, and even televisions. Advanced audio features like Auracast were also added, including the ability to broadcast your own voice. Quick Share became smarter, automatically suggesting people from photos for faster sharing. Samsung also improved battery life through clearer settings and more efficient power-saving modes, while security was enhanced with features like automatic device locking after failed authentication attempts. Finally, the interface received smaller but useful upgrades, including an adaptive lock screen, a customizable Quick Panel, and new options for screen recording. Over time, One UI evolved from a simple interface into a smart, deeply integrated, and increasingly personal system. But what do you think? Which version of One UI do you think has been the best so far? If you enjoyed this kind of video, make sure to subscribe to our channel, and if you give us a like and leave a comment, it really helps us out. Thank you.